Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I'm going to be talking about a movie that is going to be released, well at least at the time I'm recording this video, it's going to be released next month. So this month right now is February of 2018. It's going to be released in March. So, you know, if you're watching this in the future, the movie's probably already out. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about it because it's an exciting film that I at one point thought would never happen, and I'm so happy it's happening. I mean, I'm really excited about this film, and the reason why is because I heard about this book, like I actually read the book, I should say, several years ago, like a few years ago, and it was from a colleague that recommended the book. Actually, she was telling me about it. She's into the, you know, she was into the '80s stuff just like me, and you know, that's the era I kind of grew up in. I mean. I was a kid, and through most of the 80s, that was what all my memories were. Hence my man cave, which is full of Atari games and Transformers and all that stuff. But she knew I was kind of into that stuff, into the, you know, the geeky stuff and all that stuff. But anyways, so she told me that I need to read this book called Ready Player One. And I was like, whoa, that sounds interesting. What's it about? And she said, well, it's got a lot of 80s references. Takes place in the future, but a guy who's obsessed with the 80s, and there's a lot of video game stuff, and he drives a DeLorean, and I was like, whoa, wait, a DeLorean? So at that point, I had to look into this because, you know, it's my favorite car. I've done videos on it. I got, you know, all the nerd culture stuff on DeLoreans and stuff, you know, Back to the Future stuff. And so at that point, I had to look into it. And so I contemplated on buying the book, but then I did it the old-fashioned way, where I actually went to the library and found a copy of it. Luckily, somebody didn't have it taken out at the time, so I was able to snag a copy of it. And I used to read, you know, in the mornings before I'd go to work. I'd hit the train, so I'd, you know, drive to the train station, get a parking spot, sit there for about half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever, and read. And, you know, I read a lot of books, like, you know, I read The Maze Runner, and I was kind of, I really enjoyed that book, and I was one day thinking, you know, that should be a movie, and it actually happened. So this book, Ready Player One, written by Ernest Cline, I was reading it, and I couldn't put it down. It was one of those books where I was just like, when I got to the end of the book, I was upset that it was over. You know, I was like, you know, I want more. And, I mean, whether he's going to make a sequel to this or a prequel or whatever, I don't know. I mean, that would be exciting if that happens. But at the time, I mean, because the movie does talk a lot about the 80s, it takes place in a far distant future. It doesn't take place today, in 2018. But the main character is kind of obsessed with the 80s. So he's, you know, he likes the old retro 80s stuff. And so everything he does, his vehicle and all that stuff. Now let me explain a little bit of the plot, just in case you haven't been following along. So the plot is, it's about a world, like a futuristic world, where most people pretty much just live online. Now you're probably thinking that's today. I mean, most of us are online. But this is actually a world where people just log into a server and literally do their job online. They don't actually physically do anything in the real world. Everything's done virtual through this online world. Now I know there's things like Second Life where you can kind of log into that, and you know, people do World of Warcraft and things like that. But I mean, this is actually like, this has become the norm. This has become reality. And so the real world is just kind of falling apart around people because everybody's literally just in these pods or in their room or whatever, hooking up and living online. Interesting concept. I can kind of see that happening. I mean, the way we are now, my job myself, when I go to work, everything's done online. I don't know about you, but for me, everything's done on the internet. So if the internet's down, we all kind of drop our pencils and be like, or mouse or whatever, and be like, what do I do? So, I mean, it's not too far off from thinking that this can happen. But anyways, in this story, this character, Wade Watts, which is funny because it kind of sounds like a Marvel character, you know, the WW. He is kind of obsessed with all things 80s. And so he talks a lot about video games, he talks a lot about, you know, movies, And so in the Oasis, you're able to create your world the way you want it. You can have cars, you can have whatever, and he gets to create his own car. So what he does is he creates a car based on Back to the Future and Ghostbusters. That right there sold me. I mean, I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. I got a lot of this stuff. I haven't actually shown this one yet. But yeah, I got this little guy. And I love Ghostbusters. I mean, everything Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is awesome. And so what he does is he creates his vehicle to travel around inside the Oasis. And it looks like the Back to the Future time machine, but he's got a Ghostbusters theme to it. It's really cool. He even has a Knight Rider thing on there for those of you who like Knight Rider. All things 80s. And the basis of the movie is that the creator of this Oasis, he died. And he leaves a legacy behind where he says, you know, pretty much what you would call an Easter egg in a regular video game. He's hidden something in his Oasis that if you were to find this, you now own the Oasis, you get all the money, you become famous, yada, yada, yada. And so that's the premise of the story. And so you got all these people who are going in there trying to find this Easter egg. You have to go through all these clues. You have to read the clue. You have to understand it. You have to like figure it out. You have to play a bunch of games. It's pretty cool. I mean, unfortunately, I read this like I think maybe 4 years ago. Now that I'm thinking about it, and so you know, a lot of it is in my mind, but there's a lot of it that I've forgotten, unfortunately. And I've been watching the previews for the movie trailer, and I'm trying to like reignite my brain. The funny thing is that after I don't know if it was after I read it or while I was still reading it, I was having a discussion with my colleague that recommended the book and one of my other coworkers. And I was saying, this would make an awesome movie. And she's like, oh, yeah, they're definitely going to make a movie on this. And I was like, no way. It's not going to happen. And they were like, why not? I said, well, it's going to be a trademark nightmare. I mean, for somebody to pick this up and have to, now they're going to create a Back to the Future DeLorean. They're going to have Ghostbusters in there. They're going to have, all these Atari products. And, it just seemed like it would never happen. Because everybody holds on to their patents so tight that you've got to pay them lots and lots of money just to use them. I mean, look at Transformers, the 2007, when the Transformers movie came out, sponsored by GM, and I think the majority of the vehicles had to be GM. That's why we don't have Bumblebee being a Volkswagen Bug. He's a Camaro. Things like that. So I thought it will never happen because of that. And they were like, oh, you're just being, pessimistic, and we're optimistic. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I admit it. I'm a pessimist. I think, things aren't going to happen. I never thought the Maze Runner was going to happen. But it did. There's now 3 movies out for it. But, at the time I thought it would be so cool if this movie existed. And somehow it exists. And, the one thing that struck me was, I believe Steven Spielberg is involved in this one. And that kind of was like, okay, that makes sense. Somebody with his pull, they can bring in the whole, let's use this, let's use that, let's use this. Steven Spielberg was behind Back to the Future with Robert Zemeckis, things like that. So, kind of made sense after that. When I was thinking about it, I wasn't thinking that a big budget corporation would take on the film. I was thinking it would be probably an indie film. And, with indie films, you're not going to get anything like, the big directors. They're not going to be able to use real, popular music to be in the soundtrack. All that 80s stuff that's probably all patented, it would have been a hard sell to get all that in there and be able to afford it. But anyways, yeah. And so the climax of the book and all that, I'm not going to get into that because the movie's coming. I don't know how different the movie's going to be from the book. I know there's a lot of talk about Joust, the video game Joust. And in fact, that's the last game that they have to beat. And the main character, Wade Watts, admits that he's terrible at that game. And it was kind of funny because when I was reading it, I'm like, I've always loved Joust. And to this character, he hates the game. It's like, it's hard. But in fairness, though, he's talking about the arcade version of Joust, not the Atari version of Joust, which I'm used to. So I probably never actually played the arcade version. So I don't know if I would actually be good at that game. But yeah, I mean, just even if you're into just 80s references, if you love the 80s, you might not be a gamer. There's a lot more to the story than just the video games. And that was what I liked about it. Every once in a while, they would throw out something that was completely 80s reference, and I totally got it. I don't know if anybody, like, if you don't follow the 80s, if you're really going to pick it up. And that's where I'm questioning, is the movie going to actually dive into that? Are they going to get into that? Because there might be a lot of things that some of the audience members might not get. Maybe they won't put it in there. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see when the movie comes out. But I'm excited because this thing has happened, and it's happening, I should say, and it's coming soon. And I watched the trailers, and I'm really excited about it. I saw the DeLorean. It looks like the time machine. Now, on a side note, the author of the book, Ernest Cline, actually has a DeLorean. So if you buy the book, or if you have the book, and you open it up, in the first few pages, there's a picture of him with his DeLorean. He also appears in the documentary that was on Netflix called Atari Game Over, where they talk about the dig in the site where they pull up all the ET cartridges and stuff. He actually appears in that movie, and he's in his DeLorean, and he talks about it. So I thought that was pretty cool, that little nudge in there. And at that point, I probably should have realized that maybe this is going to happen. But at that time, I was still thinking it's probably not. I thought it's just going to be a cool novel, and that's going to be the end of it. So I'm actually really excited that this movie is about to come out next month. I'm definitely going to go and see it. I don't know if I'm going to do any kind of review on it. I don't do a whole lot of movie reviews. I do my Flick Picks thing, which I just talk about movies I like. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about it because I'm so excited that this movie's coming out. If you're an 80s fan, if you're a video game fan, you're probably going to like this movie. It's got everything in there. It's got virtual reality. It's got real reality, or what we call reality. It's got a lot going on for it. It's got great characters. It shows a dystopic future, which we all seem to think is going to be, according to Terminator and a lot of other movies. But anyways, I think I'll be yapped on about this enough. If you're curious, I would suggest buying the book too, or going to your local library and checking out the book if it's available, and giving it a good read, because I totally could not put this book down, and I'm still contemplating if I actually want to go and buy the book again just so I can read it one more time, or maybe just wait and watch the movie. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe to my channel. Leave some comments below. And, if you've read the book, or if this is in the future and you've seen the movie, I would love to hear your comments on it. Talk to you later.